Hi, my name is Jerry Makudas, and this is the Reiki chat we're going to be doing with Veronica, who is here with us, and we're going to talk about Reiki and room healing. And so Veronica, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi Jerry. Thanks for having me. I'm Veronica, pronouns she, her. I'm a mother. I'm a somatic healing teacher with an emphasis on the womb and on the pelvic bowl. So, what that means essentially is I help people with healing their nervous system, healing trauma through the body somatically, and this is all tied into the menstrual cycle, our hormones, women's wellness, and pelvic health. So things like pelvic floor dysfunction, menstrual issues such as cramping, PMS, missing cycles, irregular cycles, PMDD, you name it. I help people heal this through a somatic lens, working through their relationship with their own cyclical body and finding strength and power and really a reclamation of the divine feminine, which is alive in our body. Yeah.
I love that. I've always been, ever since I've been aware of it, I've really been interested in like the divine feminine, but it's always been a very mystical thing for me. Kind of like, I mean, it is mystical, but but we had some sessions last year, and it just really made it so tangible, so physical and so tangible after that. So.
Yeah. I feel really lucky I get to do the work I do and supporting women and helping them feel at home in their bodies, because I think we live in a world where for everyone, obviously not just women, but especially for women, it's hard to feel safe in being in a relationship with our bodies, with our pelvic bowls, especially. And there's a lot of misconceptions, misinformation that we're given from a young age about what it means to be in a female body. So I'm here to change that, try to change that. Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that, like what some misconceptions would be?
Yeah. So I haven't worked with a single female bodied person who doesn't have some level of shame or stigma around their pelvic bowl. And, this stems from centuries of oppression against women, of, the patriarchy wanting to control our bodies, which unfortunately we can see is still something that's happening. And this, we internalize this and we receive a lot of messages that, it's not safe to be in connection with these deeper parts of ourselves. We're taught that menstruation is something to hide. Our period is something to cover up and, not let anyone know you have a tampon or whatever it is. And I really see this sense of like, of menstruation being a curse, like as if we're just meant to put up with this horrible thing every month. It's this big, embarrassing thing that we need to cover up. And same with really our sexuality, our pelvic floor. When in reality, this is what gives us access to our power. It's our center of gravity. It's where our creative power lives, our ability to birth the life we want, not just human babies, but whatever we desire, that happens through this relationship with our pelvic bowl. And it's the root of our nervous system. So it gives us access to feeling regulated in our nervous system, which is powerful for not only our physical health, but also our psycho-emotional health.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that because I remember as like when I was like a teenager, like I would be moody and my mom would always be like, "Are you on your period?" And it would just
Yep.
be like, why can't I have like I remember having like a disjointed relationship with that. It would just like, why can't I have the feelings that I'm having? Like, why do we have to blame it on your period?
Totally. Yeah.
And she even had to whisper, like that total shit.
Yeah. Don't let anyone know I'm saying a bad word. Yeah. And I feel like this idea that our hormones are a curse is really working against us. Like it's holding us back from being embodied, from feeling like we can be connected to who we really are. This resistance and this denial of a very powerful physical rite of passage that we go through, any resistance in the body is going to keep us small. It's going to keep us disconnected from our authentic self. So, yeah. And I think that's most people's experience is like, oh, you're having a mood shift. This must be your body causing you to go crazy. So like the word hysterectomy, so the procedure to remove someone's uterus, it literally, the root of the word comes from removing hysteria, because it was thought that our wombs were just driving us crazy. When in reality, our society was gaslighting us, because we live in a world where we're taught to behave and perform as if we're in a male body, as if we just feel one thing all the time. And even men don't feel one thing all the time. We're meant to have those shifts, and they're beautiful shifts, and they're not meant to be chaotic, but yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what brought you here today as a Reiki practitioner, as well as just really focusing on like the divine, embodying the divine feminine in a very physical sort of way?
Yeah. So my first experience with Reiki was when I had PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And PMDD is basically PMS's evil twin sister. For those who don't know, it's like this very heightened version of PMS, and it can be very debilitating. For me, it felt like constant anxiety. So my nervous system was stuck in a state of flight. I was crying all the time. I couldn't sleep. And when I was diagnosed with PMDD, my doctor handed me birth control, and I hated it. I know it works for some people, but often we're not told about the risks and how it messes up our hormones. And I fully felt all of that. So I couldn't do birth control, but I went to this healing party. It was like I don't know, the only way I can describe it is there were like healers all around, and they had chairs out, and you could just sit down and receive. My aunt brought me to it, and I sat in this chair, and I was like 19, and this woman did Reiki on me, and I fell asleep in the chair. And I hadn't slept in I hadn't slept more than a few hours in like a month. So it was so powerful for me. And she was able to tell me about my grandma and all of these really meaningful things. And it worked better for me than birth control did. So flash forward another 10 years. I started receiving Reiki more regularly in my pregnancy. And it was actually postpartum that I started to see a lot of meaningful images while I was receiving Reiki. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is, I didn't know I had this connection. And there was one session where I was talking to my grandma, and she was telling me to go with Mary, to go to Mary. And I was telling my friend Amber this afterwards, and she was like, that's crazy, because I got the sense that you needed the energy of Mother Mary. Like, that's what you need right now. And anyways, there were all these amazing like aha moments for me in Reiki. And that's what made me decide to pursue the path of learning how to do it. So I started with my friend Amber, and then I trained with Jerry last year in the Holy Fire Reiki method. And since then, I've sort of adapted it and integrated into my wound healing practice. So we work primarily on the womb. So I'll start there on your root and then kind of explore the relationship, like for example, the relationship energetically between the womb and the heart, which is a central one, but also all the other chakras. Um, and I get a lot of insight for people about what kind of energy they have going on in their womb, um, ancestral lineage connections. And yeah, it's been a huge part of not only helping people with healing their womb and their pelvic bowl, but also it's a really powerful tool for nervous system regulation, as you know.
Yeah, I just thought of a question. So you mentioned the chakra system, like you had like the heart chakra and stuff like that, and then the womb. Where does the womb fit in within the chakra system?
Yeah, so your womb is part of your sacral chakra. So the Svatisthana, the creative chakra, it's literally where our creative energy is embodied. And this creative energy is meant to be used to build the life you desire. Yes, having babies is fun, but we have this power in our bodies. And I want everyone to know that each month you can tap into that and you can set intentions and harness that powerful creative energy to birth whatever you want into your life. Um, so the sacral chakra is also connected to relationships, our sense of fluidity in life. So if you think about being a cyclical being, we really have a direct embodied connection to how we're meant to ebb and flow. The seasons of nature ebb and flow. We do. When that fluidity, I think, so connected to the feminine, and it's something that we deny ourselves a lot in life. We think we're meant to just move in one straight linear line, right? But we're meant to ebb and flow like everything and expand and contract. And um, yeah, so fluidity, sexuality. So that's another powerful energy that we can tap into. And I think a lot of us, again, are disembodied from that power and that sense of safety in being sexual.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that because I remember because it kind of like because it's like the way, and I think most women are like this, that it's like you bleed and you don't bleed. Like it's just kind of like it's just very like, and that might be a very linear masculine way of approaching it. Of like, because I always knew something was happening right before my cycle that I would just be different. Like I would just, but and then my cycle, but it was just like working with you helped me expand on like the seasons. Like we go through the seasons every month. But I remember like, but it's like as like I'm a yoga teacher as well, and that's what led me to Reiki. But I just remember one time I was working at my job and I had to be training someone, and I was on my period, and I just remember like I feel really dumb. Like I just felt like I don't know if dumb is the right word because I shouldn't be using negative self-talk, but I just remember that it was literally like a layer between me and the world, and I was like I had to be linear and logical and train this person on how things were done, and but I would just like all I want to do is just like just go inwards, and it just felt like I just felt like it was an energetic layer between me and this other person and these logical things that I had to do. And I probably shouldn't be using the word dumb, but it was just like I know I'm not dumb, but I feel dumb today. Like I feel like I can't say what I'm trying to say or explain or understand what I'm trying to explain. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Jerry, because I think that when we are disconnected from our cycle, we might have more of these negative thoughts about ourselves, like, why can't I just show up and be the way that the world wants me to be today? Well, right before you bleed, you have, as you know, Jerry, this big hormonal plummet. And in that hormonal drop off, especially if we've been going through our cycle and not taking time to rest and receive, then we're going to feel that sense of just like, oh my God, I need to be alone. Something's wrong with me. I must, for me, it felt like I must be crazy. I must be so crazy if I'm having all of these feelings all the time and I'm crying. And, I think we can pathologize our emotions as women because we're we're taught that it's not a safe world to need to retreat, to need to go inward. And really that's where the magic happens. Like the deeper you go in, the more you can expand outward. And our menstrual cycle gives us these direct doorways into that internal world of ourselves that we can get, we lose touch with often.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it was just like, because I think that was like an aha moment for me that I was just like, okay, I just no noticed like, I remember feeling this way, but it never like really like occurred to me. But now, like when I'm on my cycle, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna like lay on my couch, having my heating pad on my lap, sleep, because it's like, and then it's like actually after a session last year, I really don't have cramps. Like I still have those ebbs and those flows where like I have the surge of energy. I feel I'm just a little bit, I wouldn't call it moodier. It's just more aware of the subtler emotion is how I would describe it now. That it was just like, okay, it's just like I'm just a little bit more aware of those subtler emotions, a little bit more emotional, just a little bit more tired, and but I really don't have cramps anymore, and that's like just absolutely amazing to me. And I
Yeah.
have some friends that they really don't, I don't know if it's that they're not aware of it or they don't go through it the way that I do and what the way you described that when you were younger. But it just like some women, I don't want to say that they don't experience that or they just don't have, it just doesn't drastically affect them the way other women do. And I would just be like, I have to lay here and be like, and they're like, but I don't feel that way. I just keep going. And
Right. Yes. And, even if you don't have cramps, I firmly believe we're still meant to take that time to slow down. If we're, literally bleeding out nutrients and minerals that our body needs to feel nourished, we can embrace rest to feel as we move out into the times when we have more energy, like in our pre-ovulatory phase, we'll have more of that, and our nervous system needs regular breaks. So, yeah, I felt really isolated with my cramps too, Jerry, where it was like, wow, everyone else seems fine. Like, why do I need to go to the nurse's office? Why, do I need to stay home from school sometimes or miss work? And now there's a big movement in workplaces to give people paid period leave. So in Spain, women get paid period leave. And I think that that is absolutely a birthright. I mean, if it weren't for the menstrual cycle, none of us would be here.
very,
So, like,
very true.
you know, women women are meant to receive. I don't know, everyone receives, right? We all have this feminine energy in us, but we're meant to receive because we give so much. We have more estrogen, which makes us more aware of how others are feeling, and we tend to what's called tend and befriend others, and we give a lot. And um so giving yourself the space to receive instead of pushing and forcing is a beautiful gift.
Yeah, yeah, I totally resonate with that. I remember one of our first sessions, you did the meditation, and I think the meditation, it was like it was kind of like that. You had me imagine my ovaries, and then kind of like or my womb, and make it like as big as the room. And I will say that that initially made me feel uncomfortable, but because I think women are taught to be smaller, not to be
Yeah.
big. And could you talk a little bit more about that? What society tells women to be small, but we're actually bigger.
Yeah. Love to. So, one kind of example of this is how in my clients, and I've done this too, we have a tendency to suck in our bellies, which directly impacts our womb, especially when our womb is naturally bigger when we're bleeding and needs more space. And this sucking in is wreaking havoc not only on our pelvic floor, but also on our nervous system, because we're meant to breathe in a way that expands both the respiratory diaphragm, the abdominal core cauldron, but also our pelvic floor. We need to be able to expand and have that flexibility in our whole core cauldron in order for it to stay strong and supple. But we've been taught to shrink ourselves both literally and emotionally, figuratively, whatever it is, and not take up space. You know, if we look at diet culture, you know, workout culture too, I think it gets really extreme, and we aren't meant to do vigorous workouts when we're bleeding. Just throwing that out there. But this need to shrink ourselves, you know, it's really causing us a lot of not just physical imbalances, but these emotional ones as well. If we don't feel like we have the power and the right to walk into a room and feel safe enough to take up space, to speak our truth, that can over time lead to a lot of, you know, imbalances, toxicity. Yeah, so I'm here to help women feel safe to expand their bellies and let them be full and like just wide and not so grippy and tense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did like once I got past that initial, like, okay, this feels really uncomfortable. I enjoyed it, but it was definitely a very different sensation that I was used to because I've always been conditioned, like, oh, don't be bigger, don't show your emotions, don't be loud, don't be quiet, don't affect other people. And I can see how all of this is very intertwined and related to each other. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the first time I learned about diaphragmatic breathing, and I thought that I had already gotten over my body image stuff. And then when I was invited to like really let my belly expand, I felt that hesitance too of like, oh, I didn't even know, I didn't even know that I had that hesitance still. It was still there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Could you talk just a little bit about how you, I know you talked a little bit about earlier, but how Reiki, how you specifically work with Reiki and like maybe like healing the nervous system, like how Reiki is really calming and grounding, energetic. So
Yeah. Oh, I love this. So, first of all, I want to say that I feel like Jerry really guided me in embracing a more feminine approach to Reiki, because I had learned, and this is maybe from my yoga background too, where I was really into anatomy and alignment based yoga. And so when I approached Reiki, I was very like technical and like, oh, I need to like make sure that I have the right formula and I need to do it this certain way every single time. And Jerry really opened up my perspective on Reiki and gave me permission to do Reiki the way that I authentically am, which is like I am a fluid person. Like that's so it didn't make any sense for me to have all these rigid rules about how I did it. So I am forever grateful for Jerry and her giving me that space and permission. Um, but you know, I just sort of intuitively started working with my understanding of womb energetics. So my background is also in holistic pelvic care, created by Tammy Kent, which is a form of pelvic bowl healing, pelvic bowl medicine centered around the energy centers of the womb, of the whole pelvic bowl. And the womb is seen as earth energy. So it really has that capacity to both grow life and shed what's going. Always represent creative fire. So they literally house all the eggs we'll ever have and that creative potential. And the obviously water is a huge part of the whole pelvic bowl itself, and the feminine. So I tap into those elements that everyone has in their pelvic bowl. And if you don't have a womb anymore, or if you identify with having a womb, or if you're in menopause, all of these energies are still there. They don't leave. Just want to throw that out there. But with Reiki, I kind of read what kind of energy is going on in each of those parts. And also, as everyone knows, Reiki provides deep healing for the womb, for the whole body, but for each of those parts that I work on. And then from there, I'll work through all the different chakras. So, working with the crown and the connection between spirit and the womb. Working with the third eye. So that's another juicy one because it's like intuition in the womb, which is very powerful. We work through each one. And what this does is it also gives you more relationship between each chakra and the womb. So yeah, that's kind of like the basic template of how I do this work. And what Reiki does in terms of a nervous system perspective is it puts you in that deep relaxation based state, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. It's technically a low tone dorsal state. And what's really interesting to me
What
is,
a low tone dorsal state?
yeah.
Oh, you're gonna
So
say that. I'm sorry.
what's that?
Were you gonna say what that was? Were you already?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, no, I'm glad you're curious. So we have different states in the nervous system. It's not just sympathetic and parasympathetic. There can be different states within both of those. So we can be in a sympathetic state, but have it be positive. It can be this energetic, I've got to get stuff done thing. It can also be, I'm in fight or flight, and now I'm my body has signaled an alarm and I'm in a state of anxiety or perhaps irritability, anger. But that would be, under threat. The body has perceived that you're under threat. And it might just be that you're stuck in traffic, but our body doesn't know that, right? So then if you go down into the parasympathetic, we have the dorsal branch of the nervous system, which is either deep relaxation, which Reiki provides, and we all need this down regulation, this regular amount of rest and rejuvenation and nervous system recalibration. Then under threat in a dorsal response, we can go into something called freeze or collapse, where the body is trying to conserve energy and immobilize the body as a way to protect us. So if you think of like a bunny in the wild, it's not going to chase the wolf. It's not going to attack the wolf. It's not going to run away. It will go into freeze as a way to conserve energy and try not to get eaten.
And I do that when I'm crossing the street and I see a car coming at me. I should keep going and I just freeze. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this? Because I'm making it more likely for this car to hit me, but it just instant in me. But go ahead.
So this is a really great example, Jerry, of how the nervous system is autonomic. So we can't consciously go, oh, here's how I'm going to respond to this event. We'd like to think that we do. We like to think that like, oh, I'm going to choose the way I react, when actually our body chooses for us. And it's not a conscious actor. It's our body is just deciding if we're in safety or if we're in danger. And then that drives our behavior. So like the deer in the headlights, I relate to that so much, especially for me. It was like public speaking actually, and teaching yoga. When I first stood in front of a class, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't even think straight. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah. And these are all very smart, intelligent responses to, whatever we have going on. There's no shame in any of them. But what's interesting is the vagus nerve. So you have this nerve that runs from your brain stem all the way down into your cervix, and it governs nervous system regulation. The branch of the vagus nerve connected to that dorsal state, that deep state of relaxation or the freeze response, it runs into the pelvic bowl. That's the branch. So this is one reason why when I work with clients, whether it's working on menstrual cycle stuff, nervous system stuff, or pelvic bowl, whatever, they'll often say, I feel so relaxed every time we work together. And that's because most of us are cut off from feeling our pelvic bowl and being in it. And we get to restore that connection and have those deeper states of relaxation, especially with Reiki.
Yeah, like holding in your belly as you were talking earlier, or like when we're
Right.
always told to do the Kegel exercises and like contract, contract, contract for like either sexual or not, like peeing in the middle of something, or so kind of bringing that feminine, allowing
Mhm.
expansion, fluidity. So.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, the Kegel, I mean, I could just go on and on about how problematic it is, but it was created with good intention. The man, John Kegel, he wanted to help postpartum women, but then over time, the Kegel became this overprescribed band-aid, and it causes a lot more harm and what's called hypertonicity in our pelvic floor, which is when anything is overly tight, it, it's also more likely to not work well, right? So that's just kind of one
The pendulum.
very summary of what, yeah, why the Kegel can be problematic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like I also wanted to elaborate on what you talked about. Like I didn't realize how much more of an expansion and understanding that you had with Reiki that because I do remember when we started like studying with each other with Reiki was I do remember that you were like, okay, I have to know where the person is, I have to know where the middle like doing distance Reiki. And I mean there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like how I see it as like those little techniques because like when you start something like Reiki, it's like, what am I doing? This is like especially in like with a different modality or a different way of working with the world. It's like I don't know what I'm doing. So you need like a bunch of little steps and tools and techniques and rituals because I think there's a lot of power in rituals. But like on one hand it gives us like a framework to work from. And then on the other hand, it kind of like that it can be limiting. So it just kind of like that, it sounds like a lot of what you do is kind of like stepping into like that fluidity or that expansion, or anything is possible. And so,
Yes. You really helped me realize what I already knew, but I didn't trust it, which was that Reiki would literally turn on randomly. And I'm not saying we shouldn't put your hands in gusho and all that stuff, but like, I knew that that was possible. So why was I adhering to these like very rigid routines? And even when I would do some of them, it was like, oh, I just got to get this done. Like I wasn't really like fully present for them. But if I do it in a way where I'm like, what is needed here? And how can I slow down and really be with that versus got to get a paper what's your exact address? And
yeah,
all
I actually attribute that philosophy in some ways to one of when I took my first master level in 2010, and you probably know is I started out in Tibetan Usui, and then I went Holy Fire in 2017, and Tibetan Usui is a little bit more these structured rules of how you did the attunements and all that. And then Holy Fire is a little bit more just kind of getting your ego out of the way and just letting whatever happens happen. But I remember that one of my people that took the class with me, and it was a man of all, like, and not to get into like gender, but I just remember he said to me that like he decided to do a different modality, but he taught two Reiki classes. The first one he taught the normal way, like, like all the ritual and the structure. And the second one, he said he just threw the energy in the room and he didn't do anything. And he said those people got attuned, and that always stuck with me. That
yeah.
I like, because it was like, because I was always told that it was kind of like told like, okay, you have to do it all these different ways, but if you miss a step, your guides will correct it. like that's what I've always been told. So it's kind of like, so I know for me with Holy Fire has become more of the feminine allowing of that, because it's like we don't like, because I mean I think there is absolutely nothing wrong with the technique that you were doing with knowing the person's name and where they're located, and but I mean I think there's more beyond that, because energy is energy. And because like think about how you know some people and you like them immediately, and there's some people that you just like, something going off, but you can't say what it is, but you're sensing something that is real. So
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. You just know, like your intuition, your body will tell you. Yeah. So thank you for that, because it really opened up a lot of spaciousness in my practice, and more presence, I think, too. Yeah.
yeah, awesome. I love hearing that. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to the discussion before leading us on a meditation?
Um, just want to say that, we have a lot of experience. I want to reiterate that we live in a world where you might have been taught that it's not safe to relate to these parts of yourself. And that is a smart response from your body, from your nervous system. When we are sick, or when there's a sickness going around, which we're very familiar with right now, our immune system will turn on as a way to protect us. And our body does the same thing. Our nervous system, if it detects that we're having an experience, or are being taught that it's not safe to be in our bodies, it's an intelligent response to go, okay, I'm going to disassociate from this part of me. So I just want to normalize that and say that it is also very much worth it to re-embody your pelvic bowl, your womb, because it's part of you. So yeah. um yeah.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. I really appreciate you having a chat with me. And I'm going to put you on the spotlight so you can just lead us through the meditation, which I'm really excited about. So,
Perfect. So why don't we just get started? Go ahead and find a position that your body is asking for. So that could be lying down, that could be using a wall for back support, that could be seated cross-legged on the floor. But really listen for what your body is craving and follow that lead. And as Jerry and I were talking about, allow your breath to descend down, down, down into your pelvic bowl. And you can even place your hands on your outer hips here, or with your body's permission, you can place both hands over your womb, which everyone feels good. Your womb is slightly above the pubic bone, below the belly button. And as you descend your breath deep down, allow your belly, your whole pelvic bowl to widen and take up space in all four cardinal directions. So front and back, side to side. Bring some horizontality into that breath. And exhale all the air out. Again, almost like a waterfall, allow the breath to move down and saturate the whole pelvic bowl, inviting it to expand and widen and soften. And exhale. And as you watch this waterfall, imagine your awareness being drawn with it, moving down into the pelvic bowl. Good. And from here, tapping into the elemental energies of the womb. The womb represents earth energy. It is both a powerful muscle and an organ, with this capacity to nurture and grow and birth all you desire. and release what needs to go. What do you sense in your womb? Knowing that it has this power to it, what does your womb have to say via sensation, emotion, even images or colors? Just observe. And remember that if it's quiet, you can always come back to this. Your womb is always in dialogue with you. And a lack of information or sensation is also informative. Bringing your awareness now to your ovaries, to the left and right side of your womb, these small, almond-sized, almond-shaped ancestral palaces within your body. And take a moment, perhaps bringing your hands over to the left ovary and just noticing the quality of the energy here, the sensations, colors, images, emotions. The left ovary is connected to your matriarchal lineage, the feminine. What do you sense here? And then bringing your hands now to your right ovary, noticing the sensations and energy in the right ovary connected to your father's lineage, your patriarchal lineage. What do you sense in the right ovary? How does it differ from the left? And then drawing these two energies into your center again, bring your hands back to your womb, uniting the feminine and masculine within you. And in that sort of marriage between the feminine and masculine, imagine you could plant a seed within your womb, a seed of intention. It could be a quality you want to embody. It could be a career project, a relationship, whatever it is, plant that seed and trust that your womb will nurture and nourish this seed and birth that intention out into the world, into your life. Take a few more expansive breaths here. Really let that seed be planted within. And from here, when you're ready, you can release your hands and lift your eyelids. And just welcome back.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, I remember doing this meditation with you, doing this meditation with you last year, and like this was actually the one where I was talking about like making your womb really big. That was like, but it was like it was familiar, but it was really interesting, like paying attention to like the quality of my ancestral lineages on the right and the left side. And it's been a while since I've tapped into that energetic awareness, and it was just like because my mother lineage felt very watery like this,
Mhm.
and my father's lineage, like matriarch, the matriarchal father lineage. I don't know if that's how the right way of saying it, but it felt very like buzzy was how
Yeah.
I would describe it. So it's just really interesting to be aware of that.
Yeah, it can be really fascinating. And, there's a lot of, anytime we heal both backwards and forwards in our lineage, but through womb work, we can really understand a lot more about what kind of energies we're carrying with us. So I love that you got that insight. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that to truly heal, it takes 7 generations to heal.
Whew.
And I study social work, and that's what they said in social work that when a trauma happened, like a major trauma happened, it takes 7 generations for that to heal. And then I've also heard when I started getting into yoga and energy work and Reiki, I heard the 7 generations again. So, and I
Yeah.
say for things within my own family history that there were things that my family did or had fears or they had certain like conceptions that I never really understood. And then like when I got older, I found out some things, and then it just made sense. It doesn't make it right, but it made sense that I was carrying something that was like 3 generations removed that I had no idea what. I knew I was carrying something, but it was just like, I know this isn't right, but I don't understand it. And so
Yeah.
we carry the seed of the ancestors. We carry the ancestors within us, and we carry the descendants within us.
Yes, exactly. That was so well said. And my grandma, who I'm very close with, but I've never met, she died of uterine cancer when my mom was in college. And I remember the day my mom told me that she had died of uterine cancer, and I went to the bathroom and I was like, this makes so much sense. Like, I have had debilitating cramps, just this disconnect from my womb and PMDD and all these things. And it's like, I think those symptoms come up so that we can do the work, so that we can be the person in our lineage to go, okay, this is where the cycle ends, or the cycle begins, or whatever. We are cyclical, but yeah, it's really powerful work.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Veronica. I'm really glad that we had this talk. And okay, so I guess this is goodbye.
Thanks so much, Jerry.